next guest on the Quantum Shift podcast is Betty Guadagno, also known as Buddha Betty. She's a transformational coach. She's a spiritual guide, and she's someone who has, I guess you could say, walked through addiction. She's experienced tremendous loss in her life and experienced a near-death experience and came back with a complete and radically different understanding of life, love, of consciousness. And it was a profound conversation. It's not a conversation about fixing yourself. It's more of a conversation about remembering who you were before the world told you who you should be. So if you've ever felt lost, broken, or quietly awake in a world that doesn't quite make sense, then I think you're going to deeply and profoundly enjoy this conversation. Let's begin. When you meet new people in this scenario, how do you describe who you are and what you do?
When I meet new people, I say that I'm Betty. I guess it depends on where I'm at, right? Like if I'm helping people at a homeless shelter, I'm not going to be like, "Hey, I used to be a crackhead prostitute and I died." But I'm a spiritual experiencer. I'm a person in recovery. I'm a transformation coach, and I'm a person who lives a life led by service.
Yeah. So I know that you've been through a lot, and I know that your experience is incredibly unique. I suppose I will give you the floor to tell it as you want it to be heard. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you like the Cliff Notes version because it's all over, and I would love to just have a conversation with you. But yeah, so I grew up in a really chaotic, dysfunctional home. My whole family is a perpetual cycle of addiction and poverty and trauma, sexual, physical, emotional, all the traumas. And when I was 23, both my parents took their own lives. They died by suicide. So that was a big, tremendous trauma in my life. I mean, now I can talk about it and not fall apart, but for years of my life, I couldn't. And I was a drug addict, and they were drug addicts. And that's just what you do when you do drugs. You expect to die or you plan to die because life is so painful when you're strung out on drugs and when you're really poor and you can't afford to get high or to feed yourself or to pay the rent. And it's just a really painful existence full of so much suffering. And it's not like a moral deficiency. People don't use drugs because they're just like, I want to use drugs. My addiction took me to such insanely depraved places in my life. I became a prostitute. I wouldn't just prostitute myself, I would manipulate other women. I would get them strung out on drugs and I would prostitute them. I got every boyfriend, every partner I've ever been with strung out on drugs. One of my boyfriends died from a cocaine overdose. It was totally tragic, super traumatizing. And I wasn't doing these things because there was something morally wrong with me. I was a drug addict and I was getting other people strung out on drugs because that's what I thought love was, because that's what I saw modeled to me. And because I have a dis-ease, I carry the dis-ease of addiction inside of me. And it's not just drugs. I have addiction to food, sugar, other people, codependency, porn, masturbating, limerence, all the other kinds of addictions that there are, technology. Hello, I will sit on my phone for 3 hours and scroll until I throw up. Okay, it's the worst. It's the worst. But like I do carry this around with me, and so today I've been in recovery since 2019. I had a really transformative near-death experience in 2019 that it was bonkers. It was totally crazy. But like I had this really hellish kind of life review because like I just shared all that insane stuff happened in my life. And so in my life review, I was experiencing all of that. My boyfriend was there, the pain from his parents, like so overwhelming, like so much guilt, so much shame coming at me.
The boyfriend that passed, you're saying?
Right. Yeah.
Whoa, that's heavy.
Yeah, very heavy. My parents' suicide was part of my life review from their perspective. Like I was inside of their bodies as they were killing themselves. It felt like our consciousnesses switched places, and I was like through their eyes, writing the notes, taking fistful after fistful after fistful of pills, making this plan with each other, dying, what it looked like to die inside that room. Very unique experience, right? Because a lot of us go through trauma in life and we never know what it's like on the other side. But in my life review, I was seeing everything that was happening from the other person's point of view.
So,
And
because I want to just like put the context on it for people that haven't heard some of your story and don't know who
yeah,
you are. I'm coming at this with the benefit of having heard some of this drug addiction, abuse, and I do have some questions about your parents, but we can get to that later. Can you just walk us through the moment of you passing? And because I'm just very curious, like, were you just like, "Oh, this is it, I'm done," or did that happen later? So I'll shut up about the additional.
yeah. So,
Walk me through what happened at first.
well, it was an accident. I wasn't trying to die, although there is some kind of passive suicidality that goes on when you live the life of a drug addict. Because you never know. Like, you never know what if I was a heroin addict, so, like, you just never know. Like, one bag could be your last bag. But this particular day, I wasn't trying to die. I was just trying to party. I was just trying to get fucked up because I had to go do my laundry. I was like, "I gotta be real messed up."
Wait, really? You were just gonna
Yeah,
get high and go do your laundry? That was your night?
yes, yes. I was like, "I better be real messed up and wavy to do my laundry." And I took a little bit too much, and what resulted was a collapse on my bathroom floor, a rush of energy going up and down my body. Today, I have some language for it. It was a spontaneous kundalini awakening.
Oh, okay.
Kundalini roughly translates into life force.
Yeah.
So basically, imagine that your soul has been offline and not operating your whole life. And then all of a sudden, somebody pushes a button and it comes online and activated. And so, what was happening was this rush of energy was going from the crown of my head to my root chakra, bouncing over and over and over again. And as it kept hitting the crown of my head, like, at the carnival when you put the mallet down and like the little thing goes up, one of the times that it hit the crown of my head, it blasted my soul out of my body. And that's when I started to have the outer body experience of the life review. And then I traveled into the light, um, through the guidance of my father. He was chanting, "You are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of all the love in the universe." So I was basically leaving hell. That's what my life review felt like. It felt like hell. And
You're on the bathroom floor, this happens, you're experiencing this.
yes,
The first entity that you feel is your father.
yeah. Well, I mean, the first entities that I felt was really the people in the life review. So, like, the women that I harmed, my boyfriend, my parents, and then it just shifted into my father. But it didn't just feel like my father. It was his voice, but there was also other masculine voices, like this guy that I was obsessed with. I guess God knew that I would only follow the voice of the guy that I was obsessed with on Earth.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So his voice was one of
Your
them.
crush was in there too with that. That's unreal.
Totally crazy. And then, of course, after the experience, I was like, "We're supposed to be together. You guided me to heaven." He was like, "Girl, get away from me."
No. All right, we'll circle back on that one. But
Okay, yeah.
okay, so when this is happening though, for people that aren't familiar with a near death experience or haven't experienced it themselves, myself included, are you? Is there a moment of oh, I'm gone?
Yes, yeah, when I saw my parents in the life review, I was like, "Oh, I must have died," because I know that they're dead. Like, everything else, I didn't really understand what was going on, but when I saw them and I started to experience their death, I was like, "Oh, I must have died too, and this is what death is." And I was a staunch atheist
I
before
was going
my
to say
experience.
that realization daunt. Like, was it a happy thing or was it like a oh, I'm dead?
No, because I was like, all that I thought happens when you die is lights out. Because I was an atheist. I just thought, "Oh, okay, yeah, you turn into worm food and you're finished."
Go in the dirt. Yeah.
But, then I was having this experience where I was experiencing what felt like hell, and I was like, "Oh, this is way worse than what I thought happens." I thought nothing happens, but apparently what
So
happens is,
terrifying. So you're experiencing this life review and you're like, oh, I'm done for.
yeah, that's when I was like, "Oh, I must have died." And then I started hearing my dad's voice, and I was like, "Oh, I'm definitely dead," because he is definitely dead. And then he started taking me into the light. And oh my God, that felt so different. So different. I mean, I was drowning in an ocean of anguish in 1 second. And then all of a sudden I was in the most blissful, orgasmic ecstasy kind of feeling. Like, when near death experiencers try to explain their experience, everybody always says, there's no human words for it. But I want you to imagine having a trillion orgasms on top of every one of the trillion of cells inside your body. And that is what heaven feels like.
Thank you. I want to say thank you because I have heard people, oh, it's indescribable. And the fact that you use the word orgasm, I'm like, okay, people can latch on to that and be like,
Yes. Well, they used
best orgasm ever. And be like, wait a minute, times a trillion? Okay.
yeah. So like they used to call orgasms la petite morte, the little death. And I
Huh,
think it's because it is like a little near death experience. It's like as close as you will feel to the bliss of connection, creation, because like all of those things come from sex, which is,
sure.
like where
Yeah.
orgasms are happening.
Right.
So, or, self pleasure or whatever. But so in that space, I felt this. I mean, it was so overwhelming, the feeling of bliss and reunion. It felt like the home that I had always been looking for, but I could never have. And yeah, I mean, it was the most incredible experience. I mean, it's almost impossible to grab the feeling of the experience because it's so overwhelming.
Can you try to put into words the life review? I mean, what is it just you're just experiencing things? Like it's not like you're in a room and it's like you're looking at a screen, like you're just experiencing it. Because you did mention something about how you were experiencing your parents' suicide from their perspective. So it was a flip. You were experiencing the harm that you did to these women from their perspective.
Yeah, both. Both. So
Like,
just be good in life. Just like do good, do as good as you can. So like it's so first of all, it's so fast. It's like instantaneous. It's super fast. It could have been 10 years or it could have been 10 seconds. I don't know because it's just there's no such thing as linear time in that space. So a lot of people stay scared of their life review. They're like, "Oh my god." And then they like people please, right? They're like, "Oh, I need everybody to like me because I want to have a good life review." But that's abandoning yourself. So don't do that. The way that I can describe it is like an immersive Instagram reel. So, you know how like people do like their year end and you get 1 minute of all of this time in your life. It kind of felt like that. It was like a 1 minute reel of all of these things that had happened in my life, but it was, you know, extra dimensional because like you could feel, you could see, you could touch, you could taste.
well, that's a really beautiful way of putting it. Extra dimensional. And it's like, okay, great. Yeah. Now I think I can wrap my head around that. So you experience the life review, you hear the voice of your dad and your crush, and they're escorting you toward the light. At that point, are you relieved? Are you like, oh, that life review was kind of scary?
Yeah. I was like, this is so welcome. Yes, I love
You're like,
this place.
goodness, yeah, let's follow the orgasms. Let's go down there.
Yes, it was like going from, like, Antarctica to Aruba, you know what I mean? It was, like,
Yeah.
cold and terrible and, like, "Ooh, how do I get out of this?" to, "Oh, this is paradise. Okay, I understand now." And, when I entered the space of heaven, I was a homeless meth head prostitute strung out on heroin who had just died from a heroin overdose. Like, this was I made it to heaven is what I'm saying. I made it there. So, like, if I could make it there, anybody could. Like, all those bad things that I just said that I did, I still made it to heaven. I was also an atheist. I didn't believe in God, but I still made it to heaven. So, I think that's, like, one of the big takeaways from the story. And when I was in that space, I was downloaded with my pre-birth plan. I was shown that I had chosen everything that had ever happened in my life before I ever came to Earth. And the way that it looked to me was I was inside this big spiritual supermarket with this empty grocery cart, and lining the walls of the grocery store aisles were these gigantic cereal boxes. And every cereal box had a life experience on it. And so I was grabbing all of these experiences like addiction and poverty and homelessness and just
Your soul is masochistic. Is that
yes, no, well, like, I think that my soul just really wanted to experience everything that it
everything?
could. And this life is so it's a blip, it's nothing. It's so fast. Like, here, we're in linear time, so it feels very drawn out. So like my soul grabs this box that says childhood sexual trauma. Why would a soul grab a box like that? I have no idea, but I knew in that space that it was for the evolvement of myself. My human mind has no comprehension of how those things go together at all. But in that space, I knew, I accepted, and I loved that I was signing up for this particular mission. And again, there's no linear time. So I grab the box and I have a little feeling of what the experience is going to be like a little preview. And my soul is like, yeah, that's kind of uncomfortable. Whatever. We'll throw it in the box. And it goes, and we'll throw it into the cart, and it goes into the cart. And my soul doesn't know, oh, that girl is going to deal with that trauma. She's not going to be able to process it for 35 years of her life.
Oh,
But like my soul doesn't know what 35 years is.
so that's so fascinating. So you came back with the understanding that your soul signs up for the experience, but then we interpret the experience in whatever manner with which we are interpreting things around us. So it
Right.
really is like life is what you perceive it to be. And it's kind of like the story of you hear about two brothers growing up in a terrible situation, and they both say, well, what do you expect? This is the way I grew up. And one was in jail and one was a very successful professional, but they both use the rationale of a terrible childhood as to where they ended up where they ended up. That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, welcome to perspective. Yes, it's like totally incredible and amazing.
Yeah. And beautiful, frankly. So you're in the supermarket, you're picking this, and you're with other souls, or you're by yourself, or you're
In the supermarket, I had this one soul leading me, but when and honestly, it looked like an NPC. So like my whole experience looked a lot like a video game. Could be because we're living in a simulation, which is my guess, or it could be because of the generation that I'm born in. So this is the imagery that came through for me so that I could have an understanding in this way and use this video game analogy to maybe reach a younger generation or people who are really into gaming. But the person who was, or, the guy that was taking me through the grocery store, he kind of had like a thought bubble around his head. And it was like, okay, pick your life. And it just seemed like very robotic. It didn't seem like he was there to help me or guide me or anything. But I did see my guides and I saw other souls inside that space. And
so you go to the light, and then you are remembering the manner with which your soul signed up for this, and that you're just kind of like, oh yeah, I got that, I understood that. Or did that come to you after you came back?
no, I mean, it was happening in the experience. So basically, darkness, light. The first part of the light experience was this download that I'm a spiritual soldier, that we all are, and that we're here for the great awakening, the transformation of consciousness, and that I'm one of the soldiers who's volunteering to go to Earth. This was the download that came in first. And around me, I see thousands of other souls, and we're all like geared up and ready for our mission to Earth. And then my awareness quickly shifts over to another scene, find myself in front of a table of beings, and they're thumbing through this big book. I'm assuming it's the book of my life. And they're looking through the book and they're saying, it's good to see you, but you're not meant to stay. This is telling us that you're just here for information. Then I shift over to another scene, and that's when I receive the information of the pre-birth plan. And I see this scene with the spiritual supermarket and the grocery cart with all of the sexual trauma inside of it. And really that's that download of the idea that we do plan our lives before we come here was so powerful for me because my whole life I had felt like a victim. Every kind of victim that you could possibly imagine. A helpless victim, an abandoned victim, a martyr victim, a rebel victim, nobody gets me, like all the different kinds of victim. But I had a victim story for everything in my life. And in this moment, I was being shown, oh, I'm not a victim. I am a divine co creator of my experience. I have chosen all the challenges in my life for the evolvement of myself. And it was just like 2 tons of bondage had been released from me. And I no longer had to be clinging to these narratives, to these storylines that the world was out to get me, that God didn't exist. And if God did exist, then he hates us all so much. this was the moment of me understanding that I have spiritual autonomy here.
It's so beautiful.
It is. It's nice.
So you have the review. This is all unfolding. You were cognizant. You're like, uh oh, I'm dead. This is a little scary. Now this is wonderful. Now I have all this understanding. They say, nice to see you. Time to go back. Are you just pulled back into your body immediately and
Well,
like,
at first
bit like yeah,
I was very resistant. I refused to go back. Like imagine him like trying to suck you out and you're just like hanging on to the side
yeah,
of something. You're like,
we had a trillion orgasms here. I'd like to
yeah,
instead
yeah,
choose the boy crush, right? Like,
this place is great.
yeah,
Uh, and I said, like I'm not going to leave. I could see my body outside myself, and I was like naked, blasted out on my bathroom floor, totally destroyed. And I was like, you want me to put my beautiful soul back into that horror show? That's not happening. I'm not doing that. And they said, well, if you don't go back into her, then you will be reborn into a baby, not as a punishment, but because you've been training for lifetimes, for this one particular lifetime. And this is the most exciting time to be on earth because the Great Awakening is well underway and you will be there for the transformation of consciousness. We are not going to let you miss your ticket to the show. And I was like, I don't need to watch the show from down there. I could just like chill on the couch, grab a bowl of popcorn, put on my PJs, like I'll stream it on
yeah,
Earth TV or whatever you guys have. Can I borrow somebody's password?
yeah.
And they were like, "No, we don't
Got it.
exchange passwords here."
Was there? Oh God, I have so many questions. Uh, was there a sense? You keep mentioning there was a guide, but then the supermarket. You said NPC. For those of you who don't know the acronym, non-player character, from the simulation hypothesis theories, is that there are non-player characters in this simulation that we encounter. Um, so, was there a sense? Like, did you feel? Obviously there's bliss. For you, was that God? Just the totality of our souls in a space, or was there a sense that there was a maker, like a
So in my experience, there was this pillar of light, this tube of light inside what looked like a spaceship, where all these souls were getting ready to jump to Earth for their divine mission, and that didn't feel necessarily like a creator, but it felt like a commander. Like this was the voice of everything that is, and I feel like how I conceptualize God now is God is the space that I was in. God is that feeling of reunion and bliss and orgasm and and love and connection, joy, peace, serenity. That's God. So today when I pray to God, it's not like an old man in the sky with a lightning bolt. It's those feelings. It's those attributes. I'm praying to peace. I'm praying to joy.
that's beautiful. So you come back, you're plopped into this meat suit that we all endure. I kept thinking as I was learning about you that there'd be lots of cognitive dissonance as to whether what you experienced was real
Oh yeah.
because of the drugs involved, all of that stuff. And like, I feel and believe everything that you're saying. I'm like, yes, that's the way I view the world. But somebody that's like, that's a load of hoo ha. She was just really high on heroin.
Yeah.
Do you ever have that conversation with yourself where you're just
Absolutely, all the time. Well, first of all, I didn't believe that it was a real experience. It took me months to
really?
finally understand. I didn't even know what a spiritual awakening was. I This was not part of my wheelhouse. My life was getting drugs, using drugs, selling my body to get money to buy more drugs, rinsing and repeating. I didn't have space in my head for a spiritual awakening or God or the transformation of consciousness. None of that stuff was part of my picture. So that took me months. I experienced a spontaneous healing out of heroin withdrawal. And that's when it became very clear to me that I think something otherworldly happened to me. I still didn't know what it was. I mean, it took me like almost 2 years to even learn what a near death experience is, and to say, "Oh my god, that's like exactly what happened to me." But all of these like divine synchronicities started happening. Like I was a drug addict. So I had a bunch of drug dealers. And I had this one dealer that I was dealing with every day for 10 years, 1 decade of my life, every day on the phone with this man, meeting this man to buy drugs. Okay. I call him up just like any other day. This is after the experience, a couple months after the experience. And I say, "Hey, man, I want to pick up. Where are you at?" And he says, "Listen, lose my number. I'm out of the game. I want to be a good father. I found Jesus." Click, hangs up on me, blocks me. 10 years, no conversation, no nothing. I'm like, okay, that's really weird, but it doesn't matter because I have like 9 other drug dealers. So I will just call one of them. I call up the next guy on the list. He said the exact same mirrored story to me, that he was
That's
out of the game and he found Jesus. And I was like, where has Jesus been hiding? How are
yeah.
all of these men
Why is
finding Jesus?
everybody finding him right now?
What is happening? Is he like under the couch? Like, can somebody point me in his direction? Like, what's happening? But the thing is, like, these guys didn't know each other, but they were both telling me the exact same thing. And then every other guy on the list said the exact same thing as well. So then, like, I went out onto the street because I live in New York City. So I just like went to go buy drugs, like on the street, like anybody would. And when I did, every time I picked up, the drugs would be fake. They'd be bunk. They wouldn't work. It would start raining. They would get wet. I couldn't use them. There'd be a hole in my pocket. They would fall out. I'd go home empty handed. Everything to make me stop using was happening. Everything except me just making the decision to stop using because I didn't want to stop using. I loved using drugs. Drugs are fun. I really enjoyed my life on drugs, even though it was depraved and terrible and ended me up with like, just in the most insane circumstances. It was still the only life that I knew.
Well, you knew,
And,
yeah. I was gonna say
and a
if you
big,
know, that's
right.
life, right?
Right, and a big part of me felt like if I stopped using drugs, I would lose the only piece of my parents that I had left, because in my head, my parents were drugs, you
That's
know?
a mind bender.
Yeah.
So essentially what you're saying is this happens to you, you come to, you're in your body, you're still a drug user after you
Yeah.
get out of this, and you're just like used to it. And then a series of events occur where it's kind of dawning on you, maybe I wasn't really high, maybe this was a real thing. Did it come to you like in pieces? Was it kind of like you'd be lying in bed and be like, because I know that happens with dreams sometimes where you're just like, sometimes we forget them, but sometimes it just hits you and you're like, oh my God, I had a dream about that. I totally forgot about that dream.
Yeah, this was more like all those weird things were happening, and then it took me years to put it all together because it just didn't make any sense. None of it made any sense. It wasn't until I started educating myself, reading books, and I realized, oh, I think some of the things that they're talking about in these books are things that happened to me.
Yeah, it
Like
just like lands.
I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew that I was having a spiritual awakening at some point after the healing, after all the drug dealers being gone. Because the main reason why I stayed on drugs is because I was a heroin addict and I didn't want to go through the pain of withdrawal. So then I'm healed and I don't have to go through withdrawal. And I'm like, oh my God, God loves me. I'm not a junkie anymore. This is amazing. And I felt like I had to read the Bible because that was the only thing that I knew about God. And
Sure.
so I went to Walgreens and I stole a Bible because I was a drug addict thief and I didn't have any money.
That's the most drug addict sounding spiritual awakening I've
I
ever
know.
heard.
It's so true. I'm like, I found a Bible in a trash can as I was rummaging for food. No, but I went to Walgreens. It was so weird. I live in New York City. I go into Walgreens and there is a whole display of Bibles. Children's Bibles, women's Bibles, men's Bibles.
I live an hour outside of the city. I lived in the city for 10 years. I've never seen a display of Bibles
Never,
at Walgreens.
never, never. Why was that there? Why? I was there for me so that I could steal as many Bibles as I wanted. So I stole a Bible and I opened it up to a random page and it said, why worry about a speck in your brother's eye when there's a log in your own? Because like at this point, I was like trying to heal homeless drug addicts because I was like, oh, I'm healed, so I can heal other people. And then I opened it up to another page and I won't be able to quote the verse verbatim, but basically it said, the birds do not want for anything. The birds don't worry about shelter or food or where they're going to sleep. They just live because they know that God's got them. And that was my biggest fear. I was like, I'm homeless. I have nowhere to live. I think I'm going through a spiritual awakening. I'm pretty sure I need to be in recovery, but I don't have anywhere to go. And then I found myself in this long-term women's rehab where I was able to get a foundation in recovery. I was able to learn how to operate like a human being because I had never done that before without drugs. And I just had time to like educate myself. And I've read every spiritual text that I could get my hands on. I found A Course in Miracles, which is my number one teaching and learning mechanism.
Because of you that I read it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's not
Not
like a
the
book to read,
one, it
but
was the easy one that you read.
yes,
You like
the
said, you're
easy
like,
one.
easy version. I was like, oh, thank you. That's good.
Yes, easy version is much, much easier for sure. But it
Yeah.
is a very life transforming text and it's a channeled message from Jesus. And that's why it reads as challenging as it does, because it's not from a human mind. It's from a higher consciousness that came through and filtered it through the lens of this atheist psychotherapist, this Jewish atheist psychotherapist. And it reads like stereo instructions. It's just like very challenging to understand. So there's study groups. My community that I created, we have a study group for it. And that book changed my life because there's a workbook inside of it and you do one lesson for every day of the year. And it just broke me down like bare bones. I don't know what anything is for. And then it taught me to start to ask the Holy Spirit, what is this for? Instead of me just assigning meaning to things, whether it's physical things like my computer, this microphone. I don't know what this stuff is for. I don't know what any of it means. And then checking in with the Holy Spirit. Oh, what is this for? Like, yeah, okay, maybe not something as silly as like a microphone or a computer, but a situation. Like, oh, this person really upset me. What is this for? Why is this happening? And the Holy Spirit will always have an answer for me. It's not the one that I want to hear, but it definitely is an answer that does feel spirit led. And so that book helped me to understand that I can check in with something bigger than myself.
Can you explain to people that haven't heard about the book exactly what the book is? They don't know that the psychotherapist, felt that the two of
Yes.
them were channeling and documenting and all of that.
Okay. So this is the book. It's a little bit of light reading. Just kidding. It's 1,300 pages. So inside of this book, there's 3 sections. There's a text, there's a workbook for students, and there's a manual for teachers. So the woman who channeled this, her name was Helen Schuckman. She worked at Columbia University. Again, she was a Jewish atheist, and she was having a dispute with one of her colleagues. And she just kind of said a little intention and she said, there's got to be a better way. And then all of a sudden, she started hearing this voice in her head. And the voice was telling her to write down everything that it was saying. But she wasn't. She just thought that she was going crazy because she was a very analytical, logical person. And all of a sudden, she hears a voice, and the voice is telling her that it's Jesus. She's like, I'm Jewish. Why would Jesus come and talk to me? And so she asks this colleague that she was having the grievance with, what should I do? And he said, well, write down what it says. And she started channeling, and it took her a couple years to get, I think it took 8 years to get through the channeling and for them to edit it and make it into this book. But, her name's not on it because she's not the author. Jesus is, and Jesus doesn't want credit as an author for a book. So it's just published by the Foundation for Inner Peace. And again, the workbook inside of it is the reprogramming aspect. Reading the text is very beneficial, but I think the workbook is the most important part of A Course in
I
Miracles.
was going to say, so I read the easy version that I'd heard you recommend. I need to buy the real one, but I'm very interested in, like, I want to go through the real one and I want to do the workbook. And you've inspired me to do that. So thank you. But I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, can you just share, like you said, that there's a something a day, like
Yes.
what?
So it's one lesson for every day of the year. There's 365 lessons. Today's lesson is, right now it's January 10th. I don't know when this will come out, but so it's the 10th lesson of the year because it's one for every day of the year. A lot of people start on the first when they've already done it before. You don't have to start on the first. You can start whenever you want. Today's lesson is, my thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. Okay, like, and then there's a big, huge, I mean, like, there's text inside, and inside the workbook, it'll tell you how often to practice this. So it'll say, set aside 15 minutes 4 times throughout the day to focus on this lesson. Or some of the lessons say, like, this is meant to be practiced every 5 minutes. Some of the lessons say, practice this once a day. So every lesson has its own directions inside of it. So my interpretation of is this is what I wrote. This lesson is basically permission to stop taking every thought so personally. Most of them are just background noise. You don't have to argue with them, fix them, or invite them to run your day. Just let them pass like clouds at dawn. And that's like my own little interpretation of what that lesson means. My thoughts do not mean anything. I don't know what the hell anything is for. I don't know what any of my thoughts mean.
I mean, I think everybody watching this or listening to this is probably nodding, being like, "Yeah, I don't know what my thoughts mean either." It always gets me into trouble because I'm always like
Yes.
going down these wormholes of like, and then you come back and have a conversation with somebody, and they're like, "You just made that all up in your head, didn't you?"
Right? Yes.
It,
It's so
like, it
true.
feel because it feels real because you think that that's you, the thoughts are you,
Right.
I guess. So do you think that that's just our operating system, our brain that allows us to survive in this experience talking, and that because of our culture we've ended up wobbly where we've always we support the intellectual mind. You go to school, like you get a job, you sit at a desk, you're typing, but that's all on this side, and there's no, especially in our culture, there's no college for spirituality. And then people are like, wow, little Jimmy got into the college for spirituality. I mean, there's, theology and, become a priest or a nun or whatever, but there's really nothing in our culture that allows for us to do that. Is that what you think of thinking is?
So it's interesting because when you've done the lessons in A Course in Miracles a couple times, it's not so much, at this point, my thoughts, I don't know what any of my thoughts are for, but I do as well, because that's the thing about the workbook is like it reprograms you. So I think that most of us are going through life on autopilot. We are all NPCs in the beginning. And then we have this opportunity to wake up, and then we get to, like, have you ever seen the movie Free Guy? It's kind of like that, where like in Free Guy, he puts on these glasses and he's an NPC inside of a game. And then he puts on these glasses and he's one of the players in the game all of a sudden.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. So that's what I think of A Course in Miracles like. I was running on autopilot. My thoughts were all over me all the time, obsessive, compulsive. I had no control over my thoughts or my mind or my actions. And A Course in Miracles reprogrammed me to have the understanding that I don't know what anything is for, and also to ask for help. I had to ask the Holy Spirit to come in and guide me and help me. And then, some of my other healing practices, I welcome the darkness into my life. I mean, my life was so immersed in darkness. I use my shadow today as a catalyst to put me further on my journey. So I don't want to kill the ego. I don't want to murder it. I'm not a murderer, not in this lifetime anyway. And my only goal is to integrate. I want to be as fully fleshed out as I possibly can. I want to be the most authentic version of myself. I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfect. I'm not. Yeah, I died. Like, that was pretty intense. But my life has gotten better, not because I died and had some kind of transformative experience, but because I do these little mundane maintenance things every single day. I've been doing them every day since I came into awareness. Some of those things are like super boring and human. I eat clean. I'm a gluten-free, sugar-free vegan who only drinks water. Okay. I used to eat pills out of other people's puke. So this is like real transformation that I'm talking about. But that's one of the things that keeps my vessel, which is my learning device here, like quote unquote high vibe. That's how I get through my life. I exercise my body. I ground myself in nature. I'm of service to other people. By doing those things, life gets so much better. I literally had no idea.
I mean, it's almost like when you say it, it's like, oh yeah, we all know that, but the actual doing is always difficult. But I kind of love how you were honest about, like, it's the little daily tick, 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 tick like it's like getting fit, right? Like
Yes.
you're not gonna go and be super fit tomorrow. You just got to be consistent and
Yeah.
go to the gym. And yeah, that's and it's interesting too because I feel like you're inspiring the heck out of me because I really want to get my hands on the workbook now because I feel like the reason why I started this podcast and why it's called Quantum Shift is because I believe I had, I refer to it as like a break where it was almost like Velcro. Like my whole life was like, and I was like, what on earth? And I was on the beach, and, so dramatic. And I like looked out to the ocean and I literally said out loud, like a crazy person, there are people around. I was like, all right, God, use me as a vessel. Like, I don't know how, I don't know what, I don't know when, where, but like, cool. And it happened. However, the reason why I'm bringing it up is at first I felt very immersed in this. I've got piles of books. I'm
Mm.
reading as much as I can. And that's how I discovered you is like I was looking for experiences like yours. And I was like, wow, she's incredible. But I go off track sometimes. And then I'm like, why am I like walking around like this? I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta get back to meditating every day and get back to, when you're reading, take notes and all that. So it sounds like the workbook could be very impactful for people that are dipping their toes into this. Do you think it's almost too much at first? Or like, how do you
Well, I think that's something that happens to all of us, myself included, is that we fall into this trap of like, there's a puzzle that we need to solve. There's not. Like, there's a version of you, your spirit, who is your truest self. Like, you are not this body. You are not this ego. This is the 3D avatar that you're playing in a very convincing virtual reality video game. Your spirit is sitting in heaven with a VR headset on and playing this game and making us move and interact with each other and find each other and share information and all that stuff. Now, it's fun to like have that insatiable thirst for knowledge. But what happens to a lot of people is that they get stuck in that and they just keep learning. And it's not about learning, it's about embodiment. Utilize the things that you're learning and practice them in your life. Otherwise, you're just like, what are you? You're just a person who has a bunch of information in their head.
think you just unlocked something in me
Okay. Welcome to your quantum shift. But the workbook is about embodiment because like you have to practice the lessons each day. And of course, the universe will always set you up that whatever the lesson is exactly what you'll be confronted with in the day. So my big thing, like after years of integrating, is at first I just wanted to go back to heaven. And I thought that I had to do righteous things to get back there. I thought that I had to do recovery because that was a very strong download. You must stop using drugs and drinking, all of them. And I thought, okay, well, I'll stop using. And then I would make it to a recovery milestone. I'd be like, hey, God, I haven't used drugs in 7 days. I'm a winner. Are you coming to get me yet? And I'd get no response. And then I'd make it to like, okay, God, it's been 6 months. Like, I'm definitely ready to go home now. Please come and get me. No response. A year, 2 years. And then
Wait, so literally like you were asking for death. Is
oh,
that what you're
yeah.
saying?
I was like, come back and pick me up. Like, what the fuck? Like, you just left me here? I felt
In
very
what so
rejected.
wait, I'm so,
Yeah.
I'm so curious about that. So you're getting sober, you have a milestone, and then what? You're meditating, you're praying, and you're kind of like, "All right, I'm
Just
out
like
of
falling out. Yeah. I've never been like a big, like I sit on a pillow and I meditate. I live in New York City. It's too fast here. I don't have time for that.
here." Yeah.
But but I would just cry out to God. I would just be like, when are you coming to get me? Like literally out loud, just in the middle of the day. Like, when are you coming to get me? What is going on? Why am I still here? And something that A Course in Miracles really helped me understand is that it's not about escaping the dream. Like, this is a dream that we're inside of. It's a waking dream, it's a collective dream. And for some people, it's a nightmare. And for some people, it's a happy dream. And that all depends on your thought forms, where they are and where you put them. So I had to take myself out of the nightmare, which my nightmare was thinking that I was trapped in purgatory and that my goal was to get back to heaven. And I had to realize that I'm actually bringing heaven here right now. I bring heaven to earth through connection to other people, through practicing my daily practice, through doing righteous things, through being of service. All of those things feel like heaven. They feel like the bliss of reunion and connection.
That's so beautiful. So those moments of joy when you're giving back to your community and you're helping people in recovery, you're like, that's you're touching God.
Yes.
So,
That's purpose,
there,
and then for everybody, it's going to be something different. Like your purpose lies in your passion. So what's something that you could talk about for hours and never get tired of? Your
uh,
purpose is somewhere in there, or your purpose is in your pain. What's something that almost destroyed you, that almost took you out, but you overcame? That's the thing. And if you're still in the mess, if you're still in the muck, and you're thinking, I'm never going to get out of this. Trust me, you signed up for whatever it is that you're going through so that you could help somebody else through something similar. There is freedom on the other side of it. It just takes consistency and discipline to get your thoughts in order. The law of attraction is always working in our favor all the time. I know it because my thoughts before were, I'm homeless, I'm drug addicted, I have to do depraved things to make money, I hate my life, I wish I was dead. And so then that was my reality. And then my thoughts changed through little shifts on a daily basis. And now my thoughts are, I'm an abundant individual. I love my life. I'm surrounded by spiritual community. I'm a teacher. I'm a leader. I have connection to source. And that is my reality. And that's just by switching your thoughts. And it's not just the thoughts, like obviously the feelings, the underlying wounds, the limiting beliefs, all those things have to be reprogrammed. Think of yourself as a computer system. You have a virus on your computer. So you have to find the right malware to find the right virus protection to get the virus to be removed. For me, that virus protection is A Course in Miracles. And it could be something else for somebody else, but just find your protection so that you can start to have the computer system go the way that it's supposed to go.
yeah, Control Alt Delete, right? Like
Right. Yes.
maybe
Hard reset.
hard reset. Have you're so well versed in this and so articulate and
Thank
so
you.
smart and so dynamic. Is how like do you feel like this person was always there and you
No.
just crushed it, or this was a full rebirth and then you were like, okay, because I'll let you answer that and then I have a follow-up to that. Go.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I had so much trauma in my life that it's really hard for me to remember the beginning of my life. It really feels like a lot of my life only started when my parents died because that's like this big, huge trauma.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's like really that's like my starting point, even though I know I had 23 years of life before that. So I don't know, maybe there was like a good, like smart person in there. Like I was in gifted classes when I was young, and then I found drugs and I kind of became like, just mentally incapacitated by substances for 20 years. I mean, I was a master manipulator. I was a good con artist. I mean, I always could get what I needed when I needed it. So it's not like I lacked the ability to, I mean, I was good at, I wasn't like a super dumb person, but at the end of the day, most of
Smart
my
person that made some
vocabulary,
dumb decisions. Yeah.
yes, well, but most of my vocabulary was just like this long laundry list of drugs that I used and how much money it cost to be with me. I didn't really have a lot of space for other thoughts, but this version of me, like this came from reading every spiritual text I could get my hands on, from tons of spiritual downloads, from being able to integrate my experience by confronting my darkness, by letting it have space inside my life, by finding my spirit guides and letting them guide my words. That's a big part of this too, is that this isn't me talking, this is spirit talking through me and just using me as this messenger, which sounds very grandiose, but like it's pretty regular.
Well, yeah, it does. That's pretty cool. How can you describe that? What that experience is like for you? Because that feels elusive to me. Where I'm like, huh? Is it just because of how when you're feeling great about the words that are coming out of your mouth, and you're feeling like it's a powerful message, and you're educating people that are listening to this, that when you're doing that, that's that experience is source speaking through you? Is that
Oh, yeah, I'm not smart enough to put all this together. I didn't even graduate high school. Like, I'm not an educated person. So, the fact that words are able to
is
come
so
out of me.
surprising sitting here?
I know, it is. I mean, it sounds like it now, right? It does, because I know what I sound like. I've listened to myself a time or 2. I know that I sound good. I know I sound smart, you know? I know that I do, but I also know that it's not my doing. I really do, and I know that I just I wasn't crafty enough to put all this together, so I know that it's spirit led for sure.
Love that. When people feel, I'm asking this selfishly, right? So I started the Quantum Shift podcast. There was work stuff going on that was going sideways, and I'm still working through a lot of things. When you feel like you're in a corner, for anybody that's listening to this, it feels like they keep banging their head against the wall. Is it aligned more with, I think you said it was the quote from the Bible about uh, a bird doesn't think about what it needs to do, it's just being a bird. Um, that really kind of like struck a gong for me as you said it, because I was like, oh, okay, I just need to trust.
Yeah.
But that trust combined with trying to always have that source energy going through you, that's the mixture, right?
Well, I think it depends. Like, first of all, that's impossible. Like, you can't do it every day, all day. You're not supposed to, because you're supposed to experience duality. You're supposed to experience low and high, because that's being a human, is all of this whole range of emotions, the whole scale of consciousness. You can't just hang out up here in unconditional love and bliss and joy, because you would be denying yourself all of this human experience down here with fear and apathy and grief and courage and acceptance and neutrality. Like, what about all those things? So, if you are at a space where like the pain is so great and you can't figure it out, then yeah, it's probably that you're not supposed to figure it out. My number one suggestion for anybody who's dealing with shit is to find other people. Stop trying to do shit on your own. You're the person who got you into the mess to begin with. You're not the one, okay? When we first came to Earth, we were in tribes of people. Like when we were cavemen, we needed each other, or you would get eaten by a lion. Today, nothing has changed, just the lions are different. The lions are anxiety and depression and isolation and disconnection. And we still need each other. Like, other people are messengers of God. God is speaking through every person, whether you can't stand that person or you adore and admire that person. God is speaking through them. And so that's something that really helps me. Like, stop trying to figure shit out by yourself. Yes, you must let go. You must surrender. You must trust. It's very challenging, but usually other people can help you on that journey of letting
Shut up,
go and
Betty. I
trusting.
don't want it.
I know, it's so annoying. It's like literally the
I'm on my
worst.
own. I'm like, come
I
on,
totally get it.
it's on
I
my
know.
own.
I know. Nothing in my journey has been on my own. I could not be anywhere in this experience if it wasn't for other people. I'm a part of a ton of different communities. I belong to 12-step fellowship to help me with my recovery. I have a Course in Miracles community. I created my own spiritual community because I really want to run a cult one day, but maybe it won't get that far.
I
I don't
see that for you. I see that.
know. Yeah, yeah.
And I'd like to preempt. I'm in. I'm in.
Okay, we'll put you on the list.
Member number
But
one. There
no,
you go.
I did create a community because I was just being confronted with so many people who felt alone, myself included. I felt so alone. I felt so misunderstood. I didn't feel like anybody, like victimizing myself with my spiritual superiority. Like, nobody gets me in the world. Oh. So I created a community, and it's really cool. We have free sharing groups online. We have in-person gatherings. I run a New York City chapter once a month, and it's wearethewheel.com. Just a little shameless promotion.
I was gonna say
Wearethewheel.com.
promote because
Yes,
I'm in
yes.
Chappaqua. I'm in Westchester, and I'm. May I drop in? Like I'd
Yeah,
love.
it's tomorrow. I hope that you can come. It's once a month.
Maybe. All right.
Okay, or next month, next month.
Yeah.
It's once a month. It's really cool. Our New York City group is growing, and it's really nice, and it's just so cool to find like-minded people. Like, a lot of us feel alone in the journey, and I think that that's part of it too. And that, that feeling of alone is not to keep you stuck there, making you feel sorry for yourself, but to say, there's got to be a better way and to really start reaching for ideas on what that better way is.
How did you first start to reach out to people? Was that through your recovery at first, just like being in groups and therapy in that regard?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I was in a long-term rehab for a year and a half. So like sometimes, I would like run morning meeting. The girls in there hated me though. They were like, please stop talking. Nobody wants to hear about the moon and the stars and the energy. Shut up. Um, but I guess that's probably where I got like the first little bit of my courage. And then from there, I mean, I knew that I was going to share the story eventually. It took me a long time to get the story to sound comprehensive because at first it just sounded like the manic scribbling inside my head of what everything was. And it took me a long time to figure out what some of those things mean. I still don't know what some of them mean, and those aren't parts of the story that I necessarily share because I just don't know the meaning behind them yet.
Oh, that's interesting. So you feel like you've experienced other things that you just can't articulate and structure so that we can discuss.
Right, right,
Huh,
right, right. I mean, we could try, but like, yeah, no, it's messy. You know what I mean? Like it's
sure. Yeah.
still very messy. So I just keep putting myself in spaces to learn. Like maybe I'll find the book that teaches me what it is. Maybe I'll hear somebody on a podcast that helps me relate it to what it actually is. But yeah,
Have you
it's
ever
very layered.
have you ever sat down with another NDE and gone,
What? Yes, like all my best friends are ND ears. Yes, it's amazing.
and is it like, I mean, I would pay so much money to just be in a room and hear you guys tell your stories and be like, "Oh my god." And then the same thing happened, like, is it globally the same experience, or is it like
No, it's not the same experience, but I think the people that I'm drawn to that have had their experiences have undergone major transformation. Most experiencers undergo major transformation, but I love hanging out with experiencers that their whole life has changed as a result, or they've healed very tremendous trauma as a result of their experiences.
right? Oh, of course. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah,
I'm very curious because, the language that you're using for the near death experience feels to me, and it might be diminishing it, um, seems like some of the language around people talking about psychedelics and experiences in
yeah.
regard. Do you have an opinion on that? Do you have like a take on, because like, you're doing all sorts of crazy drugs. I'm sure you did psychedelics at some
Oh,
point.
yeah, no, that was, like, a big part. Yeah, I was on psychedelics when I overdosed too. Yeah, I used to be a bit of a psychedelic addict in the end as well. My take on it is that it's a tool, just like anything else is, and tools can be abused, tools can be used in a sacred way. Like, I meet so many people who have sat with ayahuasca like 200 times. It's like, "Hey, girl, why don't you just try integrating a little bit?" Like, you can sit with medicine over and over and over again, and you can get tons of epiphanies, but again, until you embody your epiphanies, it doesn't matter. Like, you could have all the spiritual downloads in the world, but if the audio and the video don't match, then what like, why would anybody care?
Do you find any synergy between people's psychedelic experiences and what you experience? There, people talk about different levels, different realms, and all of that. Do you feel like you guys were in the same place?
Totally, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even just I don't know if you know this about ayahuasca, but Graham Hancock, he has this great TED Talk that was actually banned, and is about the war on consciousness, and in it, he says that there's actually an inhibitor. This isn't like just him, like this is just science, but there's an inhibitor inside of our body that actually it turns off ayahuasca from working on its own. And then the shamans, like the people who create ayahuasca, like the brew of it, they have to add this one vine from the Amazon to make the brew so that it turns off the inhibitor inside of our body. This one vine out of tens of thousands of vines is the only vine that turns off the inhibitor inside of our body. And when the shamans were asked, how did you find the vine? They said the star people told us what vine it was. So I do feel, yeah, this is the real history of ayahuasca. So I do feel like there is something very sacred with it, but again, it's not meant to be abused. It's not meant to be used over and over and over again. You want a glimpse into the other realm, take your glimpse and then take that glimpse
And then,
and apply it in your life and be done.
So I'm
And
gonna
live your human life. Be human. It's fun being human. Being human is cool. It really is. I'm like the spokesperson for this
I'm gonna say you're
ghetto vacation spot of Earth. I'm like, "Come back, let's do it
you're like,
again." And I'm
"Get
like
out here. Let's go."
I'm getting a commission on the other side. I'm
I
like,
was
"No,
gonna
I'm
say
gonna
there's
spend as
definitely
long as
some
I
sort of
can."
incentive. Yeah.
Right, right.
Um, so when you said star people, you just opened up a whole gate of questioning for me. And you might not even have an opinion on this, but because there's so much in the news lately about disclosure with UFOs and what is it? Is it a different dimension? Is it future us? Because people are talking very seriously about the science of time and space
Yeah.
time. And is that just us looping back to make sure that we survive because of all these different things? And I'm very interested in all of these different topics, and I'm going to add on to that one thing, and then I'm going to ask your opinion about it. So we talked about how this is a simulation, and in a couple of weeks, I'm interviewing Thomas Campbell, who's a physicist who wrote My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything. Very scientific guy who his essentially his theory is has which he thinks is kind of funny, and I agree because he's done this scientific work over 30 years. He's like, it's a simulation. There's no other way to explain everything. We come into this world, we experience it, then we go back to source, and it's essentially educating source so that source can evolve to love, pure love. And that's like in its most basic form, that's what he's saying. And so that coupled with the star people and UFOs, was there a sense when you were there that there was a possibility there might have been a different line not going to Earth, going someplace else? And when you hear UFO stories and all that, you're just like, oh, that's just other souls that went someplace else that were experiencing other things, and we're all like, can you connect the dots in your mind and in your soul about all that?
Okay. So number one, I agree with that physicist's theory, right? But I also don't. I mean, like, because it's so layered and none of it actually matters. It really, like, we could theorize all fucking day. Who cares, right? Like, we're here, the end. Like, what are we going to do about it? There's nothing. We're here. Like, just be here. Just be present and just be here. But why would source have to evolve? Source already is everything that is, and time is not linear. So, like, even when I tell you the story, right? Oh, my soul grabbed this cereal box because it wanted to evolve as a soul. But, like, my soul doesn't need to evolve because my soul is source energy. But, like, this is the story that my linear mind needs to make sense of it because I can't see myself as source because, like, that's a level of thinking that I can't comprehend. So instead, I say, oh, well, here's my 3D avatar. My higher self has the VR headset on. That higher self has a soul family. They're all connected to each other. They have spirit guides. They have guardian angels. They have archangels, and then their source, right? Because that's what my mind needs in order to linearly make sense of the evolution of the scale of consciousness. But I think that in real reality, we're already all the way evolved. And so we're just like, let's just like shoot the shit and have fun down here. I also think that this is a dream. And like you would never try to dissect and understand a sleeping dream. So why the fuck are we trying to do it in the waking dream? Like it just is what it is. And on that thread of it being a dream, which is what A Course in Miracles teaches as well, like when I go to sleep at night, I don't know what's going on in the outer dream. I don't know who the president is. I don't know the state of the world. I don't know anything about hunger or starvation. All I know is that I'm in a dream and I'm focused on my dream. And I don't think that this waking dream is meant to be any different, not to like bypass the fact that people are in pain and dealing with very real, visceral experiences. But unless you can actually do something to enact change, just keep focusing on your dream. And maybe your dream is to create big waves of change. Keep working on that. But don't complain about it. Don't victimize yourself by saying, oh, this world is, like there's nothing that anybody can do about it. Like, I don't know. Yeah, that was my little, I guess, political rant for a second. Sorry.
Oh, that was very cool. Very, very cool. And I know you have a hard stop, and I appreciate your time so
Yeah.
much. I'm so sad that we have to end right now. But look, I'm going to track you down. I'm in New York as well, and
Okay, good.
can you like do another shameless plug before I allow you
Yes.
to go so that
Yes,
people.
I would love to connect with anybody who wants to connect. My personal website is buddhabetty.com. It's a play on words. I'm not really a Buddha. I'm also same handle on all social media. I live on Instagram and YouTube, so please come and find me and watch some of my content. And my community is wearethewheel.com. Go and check it out. Free spiritual sharing groups, workshops, in-person gatherings. Looking forward to connecting with anybody that wants to. And thanks for this space, Chris, and thanks for what you're doing. Creating a podcast like this for the collective is such an important mission, and I really honor what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm trying. Thank you so much for
You're
spending
doing
time with
great.
me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so grateful too. And yeah, we meet in the Flatiron District
Oh,
in
that's easy. I used to
Manhattan.
live there. I used to live on 23rd.
Oh, oh my God. The meeting is on 23rd and 5th.
Oh,
So
all
yes.
right. There you
Yeah,
go.
I hope that you can join us. If you can't make it tomorrow, we have a near-death experiencer. His name is Steve Nowak, and he's going to share his story. He like died when he was 4, and he had actually it's called quantum. It's called From Heaven to Quantum something. Okay, so maybe like you are supposed to
Maybe
come.
I'm
I don't know.
supposed to be there. Okay. All right. I will go to the website. I'll look at it.
Okay, cool. Good stuff.
Oh,
Talk
you
to you
got me.
soon.
I'm hooked.
Okay, cool, cool. All right. Bye, Chris.
Well, that's the end of that episode. I told you were going to enjoy it. She's a pretty incredible person, right? As always, please like, subscribe, and share, and keep up the good work.